Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and I hope everyone had a good weekend and has had a good week so far. As we're watching more and more cities go past the voluntary self-quarantine stage to involuntary. As always, before we begin, please subscribe so you're part of the giveaway. We're doing it at 500, 1,000, and 1,500 subscribers. I'll talk more about that at the end. This one is another movie review, but not completely, because this is a remake of a film based on a book, that being Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, one of the dystopian future books that is actually part of my giveaway. Ray Bradbury published Fahrenheit 451 in 1953, just a short 7 years after, actually not a short 5 years after Orwell's 1984 was published. Of course, Orwell famously just transposed the final two numbers of the year he published 1984 in, or 1984 because it was 48, to come up with a title. He figured roughly 40 years in the future was a good time to set it. We're not really told what year Fahrenheit 451 is set in. Ray Bradbury, I think, specifically did that so that it would really just be a dystopian future. If you've watched the latest version on HBO, while society does very much mirror what we have today in large cities and then, of course, the outlying areas, it's really not clear what year it's set in. This could be set in the year 2020 or the year 2080 or 2180. There's no way to tell, and that's a good thing. The age of some of the books would suggest closer to present day, roughly 70 years after he published, but that's just the way they shot the movie. But again, this is not really a movie review. This is a commentary on a dystopian future as seen in Bradbury's book. Basically, what we have is a contentious situation that escalated to the Second American Civil War, and ultimately you had technology companies that began to aid the government and ultimately joined with the government, or the government joined with them, to rule the country. By the time we get to the opening scene, it is Trooper Montag and his fire department troop, but not fire departments as you know them now. These firemen no longer put fires out. They start them, burning anything and everything that would in any way allow people to know what the past truly was. They use explanations like, to keep you happy, we need to not expose you to different philosophies that contradict each other, or different things in your life that would just cause confusion. I've referenced the movie Equilibrium before, and Equilibrium is really a combination of Fahrenheit 451 and 1984. With Fahrenheit 451, you don't get the brutal subjugation of society on a national or even global scale. With Fahrenheit 451, people think they're free, but they're not. With Equilibrium, you dose yourself daily with a drug that suppresses all emotion. You work where you're told. You live where you're told. You have children with who you're told to have children with. And anyone who starts to feel anything is killed. With Fahrenheit 451, it's different. It is very minimally part of Huxley's world. Huxley was the world of whatever you want is yours. It's yours to have. No books, no music, no movies that are not approved, but all the drugs and all the sex and everything you want. Don't replace that torn shirt. Buy a new one. With Fahrenheit 451, the illusion of society continuing as it was before the Second Civil War is maintained. People are told that happiness is more important than freedom, and they're convinced of this lie because there's no way to prove it anything different. The lies are that Benjamin Franklin started the first fire department by burning books that were bad. The lie is that firemen never put out fires, and anyone bucking the system is labeled subversive. Uh, there's terms used in every retelling of it. You are basically shunned from society. You're not allowed to buy or sell, live in official housing. If you're caught in society, your sentence is lengthened just for being there. Ultimately, the character of Montag, who is having memories surface of his father, begins to want to know what the past was. He begins to take books. He begins to read, begins to actually interact with the subversives, until ultimately he becomes part of the plan to take down the subjugation, to end it. And it's very poignant because there are points in this book that are very aptly shown in the new version on HBO, where we see glimpses of things that have been talked about recently, things that have happened recently. When they go on the look for the subversives and their plan and their weapon, people are basically locked down while the government roams the streets, burning and destroying anything they want. Montag ultimately does aid them. He meets with a group of people who no longer have names. Their name is a book. Of course, all of these people are living completely off the grid because technology is no longer just a tool to be used to learn or work or whatever. It is a tool to be used to keep the populace in check. Where basically, think about the movie Minority Report, where people are retina scanned every time they go into a shop or any business. The Pre-Crime Bureau has the spiders that check retinas to look for people who are about to commit a crime. It's very similar. You're watched 24/7 so that the tech, the AI, can flag someone as subversive and report you. There's another very telling and very poignant phrase that is all over, at least this movie. I don't know if it was 100% verbatim. I've been planning to reread Bradbury for a while. But it is, see something, say something. It's very, very similar to Orwell's 1984 and Big Brother, training children to report on their parents. But think back to Obama's administration, and you'll remember that exact phrase being used. See something, say something. And it is used to basically make people think they're aiding to stop racism or sexism or ageism or whatever. Ism is the current hot topic. See something, say something. YouTube, in a way, practices this by demonetizing certain things. The current government, all but very few, no matter of party, wants gun control. So firearms channels on YouTube are regularly demonetized. The ads are still there. YouTube still makes the money. They just don't share it. And they do this to try to drive the gun tubers away so that those videos don't get out. Other videos where you may talk about certain things are demonetized or are stricken from YouTube because you talk about something that the powers that be don't want discussed, don't want talked about. I honestly was going to put clips from the movie, 2 or 3 seconds a clip, but I know I would get a copyright strike, and I know I would probably have this video removed. I had it in one where I used, I believe, about a 5-second clip from Doctor Who, and it was copyright struck before I even published it. I can remember just a couple of years ago where the rule was if the clip is 5 seconds or less, then they allowed it. We watch certain channels that I know are probably demonetized and making money from merchandise and sponsorships because their clips are all over the place. Look at Corridor Digital. with Corridor Crew when they do their VFX artists or stuntmen react. There's clips all over that. I can't imagine they're not getting copyright struck on those. And it's because YouTube has decided to bow to the powers that be to control the flow of information. There is an old story, history is written by the victor. And of course that is very common to accept. Of course, the victor is the only one around to write the history. You look at Hitler, you look at Stalin, Chairman Mao, Pol Pot. When their regimes fell, of course, they were no longer around. There might be historians around to write about the time, not as the victor, but as a bystander. But the history shows that these people were brutal tyrants. Had Hitler won, of course, he would have painted the U.S. as the tyranny. The U.S. as the fascist. He was doing that already in Nazi Germany in the 30s and 40s. But as the U.S. won, photographs of the death camps were not suppressed. And the true history of the war was not suppressed. Video still exists of military operations that we are able to see now. Fahrenheit 451 takes that a step further, and it is history is controlled by the victor. They don't want anyone to know the true history of their own life, let alone their own country, because they would see a period of history that showed people fighting against a tyrannical government who was there to subjugate them. Yes, they would see times when we fought against ourselves, and they would see the dark parts of our history, but they would also see times when history shows true liberty being embraced and fought for. And they don't want this because that would tell people that being controlled, told you're not allowed books, music, art, movies, period, is wrong. The movie version is very on point because it's able now, unlike the version from the 60s or 70s, to show a bit more. It shows the people taking eye drops daily. It shows at one point the technology speaking to Montag, saying that his vital signs are off, so they're going to reconfigure the drops. Pardon me. And these drops control your physiology and your mind. The technology also is scarily reminiscent of Alexa or Google Home. The only real difference being that it is a constant video connection to a central mainframe. You don't have a choice on having an Echo Dot or a Google Home in your house. You have one, multiple in some cases, in your home, and you can't turn them off. Even when you tell the technology here in the movie called Yuxi to go dark, we see that it never goes dark. You're under surveillance 24/7, even in your home. And anyone the government deems subversive is dealt with in an extremely harsh and permanent manner. You're killed. And that, honestly, should show us we don't want socialism. That society is very much socialist, controlled in every aspect. You are punished, if not by death, you're punished by being expelled from society. You can't work, so you can't buy and sell. Everything is biometric. You no longer have credit cards or cash or checks. It's all by your fingertips. They show Montag taking a train, and he has to scan his finger to get on. And they show other things where when they punish someone, they literally burn their fingerprints off. And their sentence is 10 years expulsion from society. Literally, you will obey, or you're kicked out of society and no longer able to eat without resorting to crime. They never show money changing hands. So this is very much the socialist dream of, well, everyone has a nice home and everyone can have a car and ride trains and buses and they can buy and sell, and that's great. This is wonderful. Until you look at, if you have a book, you're either killed or expelled from society. You see, in order to maintain the true socialist society, the true communist society, it is about control. In this book, as with Huxley, control is done via drugs and fear. People who now have families are fearful of being ejected from society, with their family ejected alongside them, and now their kids are going hungry. They are so scared that they will inform on anyone for anything to look good to the police, or firefighters in this case. It is very much a cautionary tale, and we should take it as such. I understand that if you read Jung, Freud, and other psychologists, you're going to get differing points of view. If you read Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and others, you're going to get differing points of view, and you're going to basically get the first book, and then the second says, here's how the first one's wrong. The third says, here's how the two before me are wrong. It's not there to tell you this is the exact truth and end-all be-all. It's there to make you think. I have read very little of Freud, but I have read Plato, I have read Socrates and Aristotle, I've read many others. And the ones that disagree make me look at what they disagree on and make me think about that disagreement. And then I come to my own conclusions that, you know what, they're all partially right and they're all partially wrong. It's a never-ending debate, but it's how we learn and grow. Ray Bradbury's vision of the dystopian future is where you no longer learn or grow. What you have exposure to is 100% government controlled. The news, government. Literature, provided by the government. Entertainment, provided by the government. They tell you that you're free to read any book on the web at any time, any book ever printed. But Moby Dick is summarized basically as sailor chases white whale. You don't need to know the rest. It's just a long-winded thing that tells you about a sailor chasing a white whale and catching the white whale. They never think that reading it is how people grow, how people learn, how we are entertained. They don't care. They have embraced in this society that happiness is more important than freedom. I would rather be unhappy and free than subjugated and told I'm happy. I don't know what else I can say other than read the book, watch the new movie, and then tell me, is that a society you wish to live in? I've talked long enough. As always, remember to be civil. We're not here to argue and scream and insult each other. We're here to discuss and debate as adults. And we can do that as long as you remember to be civil. Also, remember I'm doing the giveaway at 500 subscribers, 1,000 and 1,500. At 500, you'll have a choice of one of three books: Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, or 1984. At 1,000 subscribers, the winner can choose two of those. And at 1,500, the winner doesn't have to choose. They receive all three. And doing this to grow the channel, yes, so that monetization may kick in, but also to expand the conversation and debate. I learn more debating a topic that I've studied for years with someone who has also studied it and believes differently than I did from those years, because that debate makes me go back and research things I may not have thought of. That's what I want to have here. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day, stay safe, and stay healthy.